So last week I was in New York. Louise and I took a tour around the city, and we went down to Ground Zero and, walked around the area. This is, for many people, sacred ground. Over 3,000 people died there, including at least 62 Muslims. And now a moderate group of Muslims wants to build a mosque near that area. And Mark Williams, Tea Party Express chairman and talk show host, has gone nuts about it. MarkWilliams.com is his website. And Mark, welcome back to the program.
Thanks, Thom. A moderate group wants to build a mosque?
Yeah. Yeah, these guys. These guys are not. They're not deifying the terrorists who did this thing. They're not part of Al Qaeda.
In fact, the major contributor behind the Gaza blockade run. He's the Peace Flotilla guy. In fact, one of his partners is Bill Ayers. This is a moderate group. He's got $100 million in Saudi money, the Wahhabi money that he's quietly been assembling the property and the approvals he needs to build this thing. It was supposed to be done in secret. And
yeah, you know who else was taking that Saudi money? George W. Bush.
Look at the interesting.
By opposing this, Mark, you are spitting on the memory of people like Samad Afiri, Ashram Ahmad, Safir Abda, 45, left a wife and 3 children, Umar Abda, Azam Asan, Ali. I could read you a list of 62 Muslims who died at Ground Zero. Why shouldn't there be a Muslim mosque in the area, in the vicinity of Ground Zero?
A temple to the savages who killed those 62 Muslims. Wow, what an appropriate memorial.
So you're trying to suggest, Mark Williams, that every Muslim in the world is in somehow cahoots with and a supporter of a small band of crazy. Should we say that there can't be any Christian churches, in the vicinity of the McMurrow building because Tim McVeigh called himself a Christian?
Was every Nazi stuffing a Jew into an oven? Beg your pardon? What is there such a thing as a Muslim who, by Islam, is not ordered to be a jihadist?
Yes.
The declaration of war issued by Osama bin Laden to the Guardian in 2003, which declared those Muslims killed on 9/11.
Mark, you are displaying a breathtaking ignorance of Islam.
I'm telling you what Osama bin Laden and Islam say. These people
I'm not talking about Osama bin Laden. I'm talking about rational, middle of the... There's over 1 billion Muslims in the world. There's only a small number of right-wing crazies, just like with the Christian right-wing crazies. There's only a small number of them who are out there organizing a militia in Michigan so that they can go out and assassinate the president.
How many towers and memorials to Timothy McVeigh can you find? Or was he tracked down and executed like the animal he was?
He was, and if you are saying
in Islam.
So go after the guys who funded 9/11. Go after the people in that. Mark, let's not talk over each other, okay? It doesn't do any good for either one of us, and it doesn't help our listeners. Go after, if you want to do something about 9/11, why don't you go after the ISI in Pakistan? Why don't you find out, what was going on in Florida and in California and in Las Vegas where this thing was planned, or in Germany or in Spain? I mean, there's no shortage of specific villains that can be found, but to paint over 1 billion people in an entire religion is just wrong.
Well, when you go to my website, marktalk.com, or get a copy of Taking Back America, One Tea Party at a Time, which has an entire chapter on Islam, you'll find that I did look into those things. And you'll find that here in Northern California, millions of dollars a year are laundered and sent to Al-Qaeda and to other international terrorist groups in the Islamic world.
Then show the smallest amount of proof of that to the FBI, and those people will be put in jail. It's against the law.
One of them already has-been, a jeweler
Great.
here in Sacramento who laundered a tremendous amount of money. In fact,
Off
one
they go.
of Osama bin Laden's sons was here to pick up the loot. The mosques here in Northern California hosted a fundraising swing by al-Sahrawi back in 1995.
Mark,
so,
you know as well as I do that
is show me the throngs of Muslims turning out into the streets to decry violence in the name of Allah. Where are they?
That on 9/11, you didn't see that there was a candlelight vigil in downtown Tehran, Iran. That there were candlelight vigils in Cairo. There were candlelight vigils in Muslim cities in Jakarta, all over the world after 9/11. Muslims turned out to protest Muslim violence.
Really? So all those Uncle Sam's, George Bushes, and Jews hanging in effigy on fire must have been a case of mistaken interpretation?
I think that might be you're talking about the response to our invasion of Iraq and Afghanistan?
No,
I think that's a whole different thing from the Muslim response to 9/11. And by the way, don't you think that you should apologize to every Muslim or the vast majority of Muslims in the world for calling them violent jihadists when you know as well as I, if you claim to have investigated Islam, that the word jihad as it's used in the Quran is not calling for violence, physical violence, is calling for a commitment to bringing people to God.
Really? Then explain where those two buildings are in Lower Manhattan. Explain to me what's going on in the Middle East. Explain to me where, again, the throngs of Muslims decrying violence in their name are. Tell me why.
Mark, you ever read the book of Joshua in the Bible?
So-called Islamic moderate groups in 2005 to stage such a demonstration in Washington failed miserably. Why a similar effort failed miserably here in California.
Mark, have you
Muslims
ever...
will not turn out.
I'm not filibustering you, Mark. Have you ever read the book of Joshua?
The book of Joshua?
Yeah.
No, I have not.
Okay, I suggest you do so. It's the one...
Why?
Because God tells Joshua to go into the city of Ai.
I don't care what God told Joshua.
My point is every single religion in the world has holy books that are full of violence. That doesn't mean, the Jewish religion went through a Reformation 2,000 years ago and left that stuff behind. Christianity went through a Reformation about 800 years ago and left that stuff behind.
That's right.
Islam is in the process of going through that Reformation, and your kind of rhetoric is setting it back.
Islam may go through a Reformation at some point, too.
At
this point, however, it is a repository for everything savage about human nature. So it is not a moral equality to anybody. And now they're building a 13th-story middle finger being flipped off in the name, supposedly from Rauf, of understanding. This is the same clown who put armed lunatics and terrorists on a ship and sent it toward the Gaza blockade. He contributed more than $300,000.
Mark, being opposed to the Gaza blockade does not make somebody a terrorist.
To promote understanding, who instead is building a temple to animals at ground zero.
A temple to animals?
Animals.
Oh, that's right. You're the guy who mentioned the monkey god. Don't you know that the monkey god was Hartmann? He was, as I recall, Arjuna's assistant. It was in the Vedas. It's Hinduism, not Muslim, not Islam.
I also apologize to Muslims for suggesting they would worship a good god.
Mark, I would submit to you that the kind of rhetoric you're engaging in is driving people to radicalism. We need to be helping Islam in the Reformation that is going on.
I hope I am driving people to radicalism. The radical notion of recognizing the enemy. We have an enemy, and while they're blowing up buildings and killing our men, women, and children, I don't think that I'm going to stand by.
You're going to be their number one recruiter. You're the number one guy who causes those people who are recruiting to say, look at this. This guy says all Muslims are evil. You need to join us because America's at war with us.
We are at war with Islam.
With Islam. See, that is obscene, Mark. That is absolutely obscene. MarkTalk.com is the website, Mark Williams. Mark, thanks for dropping by.
Good to talk to you, Thom.
Okay, good talking with you.